Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brave Enough, Renew, Recover, Recreate You. I'm so excited today to have my guest, Joi Renique. She has a really exciting event coming that she's going to talk about at the end, so make sure you stay. But Joi has a really unique product that she's going to talk to you about, but it came into being. It's called Celebrate Legacy, but it came into being after her grief journey. And so I am going to turn it over to Joi to introduce herself so she can tell you a little bit about what her life has been and how it has led her to this incredible product that brings so much joy after loss, and then a really, really exciting retreat that she's got planned coming up. So Joi, you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I am very honored to be here and to kind of share with everyone how I've experienced grief and how I've coped with the losses that I have experienced. Just to get right in, I was raised as an only child by my mom, but my dad had four other children, three from the same person, and so I didn't meet my siblings till I was about 5 years old, but and we weren't really close. We would see each other on birthdays and special occasions. Well, when I was 16 years old, my sister was 15 and she passed away. And I think that what made it the hardest was the fact that we weren't that close. I was very angry at my dad at the time because I just felt like, once we were old enough, we can build our own relationship together. But he didn't really foster the relationship as I would have liked. So it was very hard to process that loss. And then not only was it hard to process it just because of the lack of relationship between she and I, but I didn't feel comfortable talking about it with anyone because, again, I'm my mom's only child, so she, made sure I was okay and I was functional. But to this day, till today, I have never had a conversation with my dad about what happened, about how I felt. We kind of just kept going, and then I didn't feel comfortable talking to my stepmom and my siblings about it because in my mind, they lived with her. This was their like they had really close relationships, and I almost had like an imposter syndrome in my own grief because I felt like how dare I feel sad about someone I wasn't connected with. And I was mourning the loss of opportunity to have a closer relationship with my sister. And that was very hard for me. So that was like the biggest part of or the initial part of my grief journey. And then in college, I lost my grandfather, who was actually more of a father figure. He raised me, he lived with me most of my life. And so when I lost him, that was also hard because not having him there to walk me down the aisle when I got married, to watch me graduate from college, those things was very hard. But to go back to what you were saying, writing has been very healing for me. Being able to kind of process it in writing in my own reflection was something that I feel like if I didn't have that opportunity, I probably would have not been able to process and be functional now after time has passed by from those losses.
Now, did you find when you lost your grandfather that some of those feelings when you lost your sister came back?
So the because the loss was very different, I didn't the feelings of my sister didn't resurface. It was just me understanding now how there's so many layers to grief. Because
Okay.
when you grieve one person that's really close to you, you think, okay, I handled it, I took care of it, I feel better. And then when another loss happens that's different, you can't always process it the same way. You can't always recover using the same things and coping strategies that you did the first time. And that was a big learning curve for me because again, now this is somebody I'm actually close with, that things that I songs can play and things that trigger me and remind me that he's no longer here with us. I didn't necessarily have it with my sister. So it was two totally different experiences that was really hard for me to have to figure out on my own.
Though I do hear one theme of the loss of the opportunity for things that you were hoping for,
Right,
you
right. Because
know?
my sister was in my key. I had a quinceanera party, and that was when I turned 15. So within that year, that was probably the most time I spent to prepare for that party. And that's the last video image I have. Like
Mm.
I was able to this year, 2022, show my stepmom the video from my King's Day party where she sees my sister, us in our dresses. We just and she my me and my stepmom are close. She was at my wedding. We have a good relationship, but it's just the conversation about death has always been so hard and so uncomfortable that's why I am hosting this upcoming event to make it normal and natural to have these conversations, and also understanding that my sister, it's been over 15 years since she passed away, but it wasn't until 2022 that I was able to talk to my stepmom, and now I'm reprocessing that all over again and trying to understand. There's some things that I thought happened that wasn't even true, so she was able to give me clarity of what actually happened. It was just an accident that happened. It was she choked and lost consciousness from choking off of food that she had eaten. So it wasn't anything like, where she got in a car crash or was a victim of anything. It was a freak accident. And I never had a chance to really process that because I was scared to have those conversations.
Yeah, because it's scary. I mean, like you said, it's the fear and just not knowing if you could handle what you might learn.
Right, right. I still haven't talked about it with my brothers. So she has two brothers, same mom, same dad. We just kind of avoided it. That was really how, and I know a lot of people do that. Like they kind of just put it in a box and they just kind of put it to the side and try to avoid the messiness and those sad feelings. And I want to encourage people to be able to, connect more, because one thing I learned by talking to my stepmom, she loves when people bring her up. She loves any opportunity to talk about my sister. And I'm thinking that it's going to be hurtful to bring up my sister, but she openly invites that conversation, and I would have never known, because I would have asked the questions a long time ago and really got to know, what really happened that day and what she's been doing to keep my sister's memory alive.
Yeah, one thing I know for myself with my husband, and I think anyone who's lost someone significant, is when just because someone isn't here on the earth anymore and they've passed away, they've died, it doesn't make them no longer existent. Is that they were here and they're gone, and they never had a life. And I think uh, it's hard because in our society, we don't know how to deal with death and we don't know what to say. And so when we don't know what to say, we say nothing because we are uncomfortable. And so I would encourage people who aren't sure what to do when they're wanting to console someone or wanting to talk with someone who has had a loss. First of all, you can just say, I don't know what to say. A lot of people
Right.
say I have no words. That's an okay thing to say, or I just don't know what to say. It doesn't even, you don't have to be smooth. You don't have to be, it's just the acknowledgement. And even hearing your loved one's name, it's so comforting to hear your loved one's name and to know that other people remember the person that you loved, that it wasn't that person, is still meaningful and is remembered by others. It makes you feel so much better. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because it doesn't make you feel more sad. It makes you feel more sad when you think the person that you loved it has essentially vanished out of everybody's memory.
Right, and one thing that I did, my daughter, her name is Raina, which my sister's name was Sharena. And so the Reina is queen, is Spanish for queen, so it has multiple meanings, but it was also important to me. It was important to me to that it matched my sister's name too. And my kids, even though like I said, my oldest is only 9 years old, but they know who Sharena was and that she existed. And and it was important to me that they know that they had an aunt that's now in heaven and that they may never meet, but that she was an important part of my life. So that was something that I wanted to make sure I could at least honor her in that way.
Mhm. And so when you talk about Sharena with your children, I mean, are they curious? How do they feel? How do you feel? Does that comfort you?
I've shown them pictures. I've shown them the video from my quinceanera party. And I think for them, because they haven't yet had any substantial loss, so the idea of death is very aloof to them. They understand that people, have people can die, but because no one's close to them has so far, they don't really understand the fullness of it. And
Mhm.
so I'm glad that I'm thankful for that, but I'm also making sure that I know how to support them when that time comes because it's inevitable. It's going to happen one day. So being able to, because again, I think a lot of times my family protected me from, and I realized you don't necessarily should protect kids from grief. You support them through grief and you allow them to ask questions and you check in even after 3 months, 9 months, you check in with them because they might not know how to bring the conversation up. So being able to process it that way.
And so what are some of the ways that you would recommend someone would bring up that conversation?
I think so because I like I said, I was raised as an only child. It's easier. My mom would take me places, like pick me up from school and have a conversation with me, take me for like ice cream. I think personally, I would like to have those type of conversations individually with my kids. I like to have the group discussion, but then I also like to give them a chance one on one to share with me how they're feeling so that they can really process it in a way that's not being influenced by the other children that are asking questions or thinking about things.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what Celebrate Legacy is.
Yes, so Celebrate Legacy is a journal for life's experiences in order to share with future generations and loved ones. The purpose of it is for you to be able to capture your experiences and advice in real time so that the people that are you're surrounded by can benefit from that, because a lot of times we depend on our memories and we don't realize that those if we don't do it in real time while it's fresh, it's not going to be the same years and years later. Like I said, I wrote, so when my sister passed away, I carried it with me, but then something happened. I went to a church service and the pastor was preaching about loss of a sibling, and that hit home to me really, really bad. That's when I realized I hadn't quite dealt with the loss of my sister, and so I wrote about that. And for me to be able to go back to that blog post and kind of reread it and process it, it's little details in there that I would not remember just off of the top of my head. So being able to kind of freeze a moment with words and not just depend on pictures and other people's account is powerful, and I want to encourage people to do that. And so with my journal, I try to encourage people because I know a lot of times people think journals are like diaries where you keep all of the information to yourself. I encourage people to share. There's ways that you could keep things private, but there's some things that we should share with our extended families and friends so that we don't necessarily have these things come up in organic conversation, but they can know, okay, you experienced that. I can relate. I can learn from what you did, and this experience doesn't die with me. And now I have to learn the hard way because I didn't have somebody else who already experienced that share with me their lessons learned.
Now, can you also use it to capture, family stories? So for instance, my mom's family is Armenian and we have a lot of stories coming to the United States during the Armenian genocide. And we like to capture those stories of what it was like to get, to the United States, because it was very important to us to know about all of that. Can you use that to capture those important family, you know, history, that lineage? Can you use it for something like that?
Absolutely. So I actually sorry about that. I actually provide prompts that help you to really get those legacy driven questions, because again, a lot of times these journals, they only ask what's your favorite color, what school did you go to, basic demographic information, but not necessarily real, like how, what did you think about when you were at school? Did you feel safe? What did you think about why did you choose your favorite teacher? What was it about what they said or how they taught you that impacted your life? Being able to get that information. I would love to be able to read my great grandmother's real experiences, not just her demographic information. And that's what the prompts for the Celebrate Legacy Journal provide, for you to be able to kind of see, do I think like my great grandmother? How has some of her teachings applied to the way that I was raised now and how I carry myself in the 21st century, even though that was decades and decades ago?
So neat. I mean, I love that kind of stuff because, well, and for people who don't know this, I've spent the last 31 years of my life working in the skilled nursing home sector, providing care to the elderly. And so I have a passion for that. And, the elderly have so much to teach us. But I mean, this is for more than just that purpose, but to keep all of that history alive and to be able to share that for generations is such a special thing to do, and to have the tool to be able to do that. Then when you go back to the grief piece, then when you do lose someone, because we all do die, when you lose someone, you have this piece of them that stays with you, and it keeps living with you.
Right. That's what's so special about writing, because I think with this technology era, we depend so much on pictures and things like that, where pictures are beautiful. Yes, take all of the pictures. But sometimes the story that you see in a picture is, I could put a smile on my face, but we don't know what's really behind that smile. We don't know what just happened that led to that moment in time that's being captured in the picture. Well, when you write things down, you really have a tangible, and you can hear their voice telling the story, and you get a chance to really get into their minds, that space that's so private and intimate, but you get to really connect with your loved one in that way. Or you can write about the person that's no longer here, so other people can know about them, who didn't get a chance to meet them.
Well, and didn't you interview one of your family members? And this was sort of what really started it. Because I love that story when you and I spoke for the first time, is really what prompted this. Is you had these losses, but then you interviewed your great aunt?
Yes. So
And
what happened was,
wait,
interview.
wait,
Oh,
okay, back up.
someone
'Cause You
now.
you
Can
broke
you
up
hear
for a
me
minute.
now?
Yeah, there we go.
Yes. So I was in college, and I had a class called The Psychology of Adulthood and Aging. And I had to interview an elderly person. And there was a lot of information based off of research that I was trying to find out from the interview. So they said you can't interview your grandparents because they knew. So when I interviewed grandmother's sister, I learned that she used to work at a chicken farm, and she used to sell chickens to the local grocery store for $1 a piece. That was so funny to me, and I'll never forget that part of the interview. But she also shared how she had some miscarriages and how that affected her, how she had a nervous breakdown and how that led to her life in ministry, how she was worried about her kids when they were in the military and active duty. And then after that, this happened over 10 years ago, again recently, because like I said, I just been processing these things. She's passed away. And I was able to pull up that interview, that college assignment, and it was an 8-page report. It was so many things that I didn't remember about that interview that I was able to refresh by rereading it and sharing it with her kids, who had never even known or read it before, but now they have something of their mother that they can hold on to and they can kind of reminisce about, because she was so transparent in sharing her experiences when I was interviewing her. And that definitely did play a major role on why Celebrate Legacy is so important, because I would have never known any of this about my aunt, who I was close to her. We had a good relationship, but I would not have known had that assignment never been provided to me. And that's what I don't want other people to miss, that right there, close connection. Because a lot of times people just think about their mother, grandmother, but aunts and uncles have wisdom too, whether they have kids or not. They still are a part of your story, and they have experiences that you can either relate to or learn from.
I just love that. So I had to bring it up. So
Yeah. I'm so glad we got it, because that's how people don't realize that it's such a wealth of knowledge right there at your fingertips.
that's right. And it's just such a great thing where, that journal could be such, a beautiful way of capturing it. So, all right. So you have a really cool retreat coming up. And so I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about that before we close our time together.
Yes, so the Gone Too Soon virtual retreat is a free online event. It's really designed for people who are experiencing prolonged grief, the loss of their person. So we do have different losses in life, and sometimes some are more impactful than others, but then there are some that you're going to carry with you forever. When it's your child, your sibling, your parents, your spouse, your best friend, these are relationships that you kind of have to figure out how to process throughout, until the day that you die. And so I've collected 20 plus grief experts, mental health service providers, different people who their career is to help those that are grieving, and they are teaching really short to the point skills and coping strategies for people who are experiencing grief. They might be like how I was, where I wasn't able to process it effectively, or they might already be at a place of healing, but then there's new and unique ways to be able to honor your loved one. Like I said, now I have a lesson that I'm going to teach people how to interview other people that knew your person. So other memory may not even have known, and now you kind of remember and keep that person alive through storytelling of other people's experiences as well.
Okay, so you are going to provide me the information so that I can link that below, right? So that people can get on and register for your free retreat that's going to be full of really helpful information on grieving and how to get to a better place on your grief journey, right?
And it's from September 19th to September 23rd. Like I said, everything is completely online, which allows you to really participate as much as you feel comfortable. You can find a safe space, because the goal of the retreat is not only to honor the loved ones we miss, but we want you to feel safe and we want you to feel seen. We don't want you to feel like, because it's been so much time, that your grief is not just as important as one that is fresh. One is just different than your own. So we definitely have conversations about how to support kids in grieving. We have conversations about the new DSMV diagnosis of prolonged grief disorder. We're really trying to just make sure you guys are educated, but also supported through your grief journey.
Well, I can't wait to be there. I'll tell you right now, I'm super excited to be a part of it. And I'm so glad that I got to make your acquaintance and that we get to, get to know one another. And I'm super excited to listen to all of the speakers that you have lined up.
Thank you.
So everyone, I hope that, Joy's story, I find it to be just, so inspiring that she's taken, her grief journey and her life lessons and provided for us another way of working through our feelings and our emotions and, learning to process through the things that, can hold us back and allow us, from living our best life. And then ways also to honor our family over time and to create generations of memories and generations of ways to honor our family and for us to pass down those stories that our family have, just lived through. And I know I love hearing them, just not from my family, but from other people's families. So I am just really grateful, Joy, that you spent some time with me today. And I know that everybody's gonna really enjoy listening to, will have enjoyed listening to everything today that you've brought to us. And I hope that people take advantage of your retreat, because I know you have been very careful on your selection of the speakers that you have on, and that there can be a lot of healing for people through that process. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just wanting to get the word out. I think that this is going to really help a lot of people. I appreciate you and your platform for allowing me to kind of get the word out.
It is my pleasure.